Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I start in the name of God, the most gracious, most merciful. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum, peace. One of the few members of the community who have asked us to take them to the Frederick Mosque for the Friday sermon was Kathy Olson. Some of us know Kathy. After the sermon on our drive home, she said, this really wasn't that much different. People came in late, kids were crying, and cell phones were going off. Before I start, I also wanted to mention that the clip that Eleanor read about Muhammad and how to treat the neighbor doesn't say anything about your Muslim neighbor. A neighbor, it's a neighbor, any neighbor. So you might have heard that Muslims say that Islam is not a faith, but a way of life. And how do we make that a way of life is by living what we call the 5 pillars of Islam. Islam, which means peace as one of the meaning, also means submission to the will of God. We also heard from the second song by Yusuf Islam, formerly known as Cat Stevens, that life revolves around God. Everything, we see God in everything and everyone, and strive to live in a state of worship and submission at all times. It was also beautiful on the first music piece, the small deeds, that the deeds carry a lot of weight in Islam. Good deeds, kindness to your mother, random acts of kindness, things that we forget easily to do. So I thought I would start with my personal journey. I lived in Pakistan from age 3 to 13, where I grew up in a fairly moderate Muslim home, and I learned the basics of Islam pretty much at home through osmosis and through watching my parents live it. I learned to read the Quran in Arabic at a neighborhood ladies' home, which we also called madrasa, or a word for school. When I was 13, we moved to Zambia, where I finished high school, went to university and medical school. In high school, we read the Lord's Prayer every day, and I now realize how similar it is to one of the chapters of the Quran, which I will be reciting later. So what are the 5 pillars of Islam? The first pillar is the Shahada, or the profession of faith. This is a declaration that there's only one God, Muhammad is his final messenger, and that we also believe in all of God's prophets and messengers who came before Muhammad, such as Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus. They also believe in the day of judgment as well as angels. Second pillar is a prayer or worship. The name in Arabic is salat. It's a difficult word to translate, and it's not really prayer, it's not really worship, but it's kind of a combination of both. Muslims pray facing Mecca 5 times a day. Some of the prayers were mentioned in the children's book. The prayers include recitation of the opening chapter of the Quran, which I will be saying later. It's sometimes performed on a small rug or a mat used expressively for this purpose. Muslims can pray individually or in congregation. The communal congregational prayer is on Friday at noon. Men are required to attend this. Women are not required, but are welcome. The sermon includes a passage from the Quran, usually relating to current issues, followed by discussion of this topic and then prayers. In Muslim countries, you hear the call to prayer, also called azan, over loudspeakers in the area mosques, so you know exactly when it is time to pray. In today's day and age, especially if you're not living in a Muslim majority country, you use your smartphone because it has an app. There's an app for that. You can set the app to prayer times for your zip code. So growing up, I didn't really pray regularly 5 times a day. My interpretation of doing the 5 daily mandatory prayers was that you could do it as needed. And the need arose if you had a major exam coming and you hadn't studied. So you prayed and prayed and prayed, and you said, just let me get an A this time. I promise next time I'll study harder. In the mid-30s, when I came to the US, I got married. I faced some challenges, health challenges, financial challenges, and I then felt drawn to my faith and became more conscious of what I'm supposed to be living, how I'm supposed to be living my faith. And so doing the salat 5 times a day can be a little tricky when you're working. When I was working at the hospital, there were times that the day was so busy that I couldn't take a break. And each prayer is about 5 minutes tops. So it's no longer than, a coffee break. But there were times that I didn't have time even to do that. So then you come home and you combine the afternoon prayer that you missed with the evening prayer. When I had time and I was at the hospital and not one of the other peripheral buildings, I would go to the little chapel in the hospital. It has a little room in the back that doesn't have any icons or crosses, and that was a good space. Now we pray facing Mecca. People all around the world pray facing Mecca, which I'll talk about a little bit later under one of the other pillars. But again, how do you know? I could pray here. How would I know the direction to Mecca? There's an app for that. My husband traveled for his job for about 10 years. And so he did a project at Children's Hospital in Denver. He did one at NYU. He did another one at World Bank in Washington. And most of those places have a meditation room or a prayer room. So it was easy for him to take 5 minutes and just go to the right room and do his prayers. Almost all the domestic airports have a prayer room. Dallas has it in Terminal A. So in and out, you know exactly where to go. But the prayer is shortened when you're traveling. So if you're on your way and you're at the airport, you do an abbreviated version. Third pillar is alms or zakat, which is 2.5% of your savings given to community members in need. There are strict rules for eligibility. Charity can be given to institutions such as mosques who have a zakat fund, and they will distribute it for you. The benefits of zakat is for the giver as much as it is for the receiver, in that it is meant to purify your soul and induce self-discipline. There are many charity organizations in the US that are doing work around the world that have 4-star charity navigator star rating, and they have been vetted by the government. And so a lot of times, when there's a catastrophe like the earthquake in Morocco, people will donate to those organizations. Fourth pillar is fasting or psalm. We heard about that in the children's book, so I won't go into a lot of details with that. It's in the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. Islamic calendar is lunar calendar, so it is 10 days shorter than the Gregorian calendar. It is, so which means that the months move back by 10 days and go around the whole calendar in 30 years. So currently, Ramadan is in the summer, which means that the fasting days are very long from sunrise to sunset, whereas in the winter, it is just like missing one meal because sunset is at 5. The trick is so at one point my husband was doing a project in Yellowknife, Canada, where the days were really long in the summer. So the way they get around that is you pick the next largest city. So they would take the timings from Edmonton, Canada. It's the 9th month, I think I might have said that. During Ramadan, all acts of worship take precedence over daily chores and recreational activities. So more zakat is given, more Quran is recited, there's more volunteerism. It's kind of like during Christmas, you start getting all these flyers in the mail for charity, for donations. That happens in Ramadan. We also have Ramadan Muslims, just like we have Easter and Christmas Christians. Through this temporary derivation, we renew our awareness of and the gratitude that God has provided us with in our life. There are exemptions to fasting. Elderly, sick, pregnant, lactating mothers are exempt from fasting. They can make up the days later on in the year when they're no longer ill. If they are elderly or chronically ill, then they don't need to make up the days, but they can donate a small amount in charity. The final pillar is Hajj pilgrimage, which is to be done at least once in a person's life if they are physically and financially able to. This pilgrimage is made to Mecca, which is the cubical structure covered in black embroidered hangings, and it's believed to be the house of God built by Ibrahim in Arabic. And what Hajj is commemorating is Abraham and Hagar's story, Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son, and Hagar's story of being left in Mecca with her child Ishmael. When Athar and I were able to go in 2008, generally in olden days it used to be you would wait till all of your duties had been fulfilled, like educating your children. But and that was mainly because you didn't know if you were coming back alive. The crowd controls, the safety measures were not in place, and of course you would travel by land for months. But now, when we were there in 2008, we saw a lot of Indonesian young couples who actually make the Hajj pilgrimage as their honeymoon, so they can start their marriage on the right foot. I think what I'm going to do is end here, since it's close to 11:30, and open up to any questions.